Dun 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 dun. Woo!
Thank you, Spencer. That takes away any need for me to do any actual editing of anything to put in the music because it's indistinguishable when you sing it from
Right.
the actual the
I com
actual intro music.
I completely
So
nailed it.
you absolutely nailed it. So those of you who are wondering, hey, like that incredible voice singing the intro music, who could that possibly be? It certainly isn't Charles. He can't hit those notes right.
Mm.
This is Spencer from Fantasy Files Podcast, and I'm super excited to have you on. And we've got some cool topics to get into, but also want to give you the floor to talk a little bit about Fantasy Files and what you all are doing over there.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. Well, yeah, I am super excited to be on the Friends Talking Fantasy podcast. You guys came onto our podcast, I think somewhere around a year ago or something like that. And you guys were 100% the inspiration for our podcast. I had been
Cool.
listening to you guys for probably a solid year before starting ours. And we kind of modeled our podcast around you guys and kind of what you guys bring to the table as far as like discussion and just two best friends sitting around and talking about fantasy. So really owe it to you guys for our podcast. But yeah, I mean we pretty much do the same thing. You can find us over on YouTube, Fantasy Files Podcast. We're on Twitter too if you want to, chat with us there. But we do a lot of things. We talk about we'll pick a book and we'll discuss it like in spoiler detail. I also do like 30-minute spoiler-free reviews that I upload as videos sometimes. We have authors on all the time that we interview and just kind of chat with and get to hear their story and everything. Um, and then we have other creators on. We call those episodes the Creators Corner, and that's what Dylan and Charles got to be a part of. They came on for a Creators Corner, and it's YouTubers or podcasters or even like audiobook narrators or anyone who creates content. We bring them on to talk about what that's like from a creative's point of view and what it's like trying to make content in the age where the algorithm rules everything and just makes
Yes.
everything miserable. So yeah, that's what we do over there. But yeah, we'd love to have you if you're interested in that kind of thing. It is only on YouTube, so I'm sorry we're not on Spotify. We're up past. I think we're getting close to like 200 episodes. And so
Mm.
at this point, I need to like hire somebody. Like I need to pay a person to take all of our files and move it over to Spotify because I'm like, I don't have that kind of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's wild. It can start to get away from you once
Hmm.
once you're getting 200 or more episodes. Yeah, Spencer,
Right.
that's humbling to hear that we were an inspiration in the
Oh
creation of
yeah.
Fantasy Files. I know we did have some email exchanges back
Hmm.
before you
Yeah,
start up
before
your
we started, yeah.
podcast, like mostly just talking about like King Killer Chronicle, if I remember
Yeah, I
correctly. But
think I think I just like reached out and it was my first time reaching out to anybody who like did podcasts or anything. But I think at the time, I don't know if you still are, but I think at the time you guys were putting your email in the intro and outro, like you can reach out to us
mm.
at like this. And so I was like, all right, bet. And so I just like wrote an email and I was like, hey guys, like I've been listening for a few months now. I'm a big fan and you guys were nice enough to respond and have a chat with me. So that was another thing that really led to us creating our own podcast was just kind of like, wow, these guys are like really interactive with their community, and I didn't know that this could be like this. So that was another thing that kind of pushed us in that direction as well.
Yeah. Oh, I remember those emails, and I think it's yeah, it's just really fun for for us to hear from folks anyway. I mean, whether you're going to
Yeah.
go on to start your own podcast or not, you
Hmm.
are always welcome to reach out at the FTF podcast at gmail.com. And I'm pretty
There
good
you
at
go.
I mean, there's probably someone listening right now that I missed their email and they're like, "Oh,
Sure.
you're pretty good, Dylan. You're
And
pretty
they
good at
just
responding
they
to
just have
emails."
your face on
But
a
like,
dartboard.
yes,
Like,
exactly. Like, oh geez, what movie? What Adam Sandler movie is that where it's like, uh, you know what I'm talking about? It's geez, when the
oh,
guy has like a hit list and like, you remember what
is
I'm
it
talking about?
Daddy or no, what's the one where he gets a ton of money? Is
I
it
thought it was
that
the one
one?
actually, that's Mr. Deeds, but I think it's
Mr.
actually the
Deeds.
one where, oh, I am spacing on the name of it, but the one where he goes back to school.
Billy Madison?
Billy Madison. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Billy
yeah,
Madison. So yes, I imagine someone
yeah.
is doing that at this very moment. But if you are, just send me another email. I'll
Yeah.
respond, and it'll be okay. But yeah, I'm pretty
Right.
good at responding. If anyone wants to reach out and chat, it might not always be right away, but I try
Hmm.
to get through all those. And yeah, so you all are doing awesome work over there at
Thank
Fantasy
you.
Files, and I'm just pumped to talk some about the topics that we kind of spitballed over our Twitter DMs before you're
Yeah.
coming on. Something I always like to do when we uh, get some guests on is if we can get the chance to like hear some recommendations from them when like we make all these recommendation episodes, me and Charles.
Hmm.
And at a certain point, Charles and I have only read the books that we've read. And
Sure.
then like I'm sure there's some degree of repetitiveness that the
Hmm.
people who listen to every episode are feeling from that. So
Yeah.
this gives us a chance to have someone come on, and even though we have a decent amount of overlap in
Hmm.
the kind of books we like, there's also a ton of books that you like maybe I've never heard of, maybe our listeners haven't heard of, or at
Yeah.
the very least, many that probably we haven't read yet. So I'm
Yeah.
super excited to hear some. I know we kind of tossed around the
Hmm.
idea of like underrated book recommendations.
Yeah.
So we don't just you and I like get super effusive about King Killer Chronicle
Yeah, I
when
was gonna
everyone's
say
like,
we don't say
we
King
know.
Killer five
Everyone
times
loves
in a
King
row.
Killer. Great. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, so does that
Yeah.
sound good, Spencer? You down to get into some of that?
Yeah, that sounds great, and I think that's, the good part of one of the many good parts of me, having listened to your guys' podcast for so long is I know which books you guys talk about a lot, and so I picked ones that were specifically very different from anything you guys
Okay,
have
that's
have
good.
covered. And so of course, there's the big names that I'm not gonna like. This isn't my list, but there's the big names like Red Rising,
Hmm.
Empire of the Vampire. We were talking about that backstage. And those are like two big books that are just like some of my all-time favorites. But I do have a list of uncommon reads if you'd like me to start with that.
Yes, let's get uncommon here, Spencer.
We're gonna get very uncommon. I'm the most
Okay.
uncommon. Um, so I have I'm gonna go down the list. It's not like ranked, but I'm saving like the very best, like cream of the crop for last.
Okay.
So Art of the Adept by Michael G. Manning.
Mm.
I believe the first book is called Choice of Magic, and this is actually a perfect book for your crowd of people because it is for the fans of King Killer. The first one or two books, Gabe is my co-host, and we were reading them side by side. I think we did do an episode on it at some point, but we were reading the series side by side. And at some point in the second book, we both texted each other. We were like, it feels like we're reading King Killer, right? Like it really feels like King Killer. And I can't remember who does the narration for it. But they do a very good job for the audiobook.
Hmm.
And it sounds a lot like King Killer, just in the way that it's narrated, and the way that the voice actor does all of the different voices and stuff. It very much feels like King Killer. But I have a description for you here. The Art of the Adept series by Michael G. Manning is a fantasy series focused on Will, a young man who discovers he has magical abilities and becomes an apprentice to the last true wizard. The series explores the contrast between the fading glory of ancient wizardry and the current diluted magic practiced by sorcerers and warlocks. Will's journey involves mastering his own power, navigating political intrigue, and confronting ancient enemies, all while grappling with the consequences of using magic and its impact on his own lifespan. Um, and so, yeah, it's got a great magic system. I would say similar to King Killer. I can't remember the nuts and bolts of it right now, but I remember being really intrigued by the magic system, and especially the first couple books are so endearing because he's kind of this anomaly. Like it's very odd to be someone with magical powers, and like the description said, anybody who does have them is kind of like a lackluster, like it's like a watered down magic that most people have now. And so his mother happens to know that the old hermit that lives outside of town is like a true wizard who he can apprentice with. And so you get the trope of the young kind of cocky adept kid going to live with the haggard old cranky mentor, and they don't like each other at first, but then they grow to love each other and they become super close. And it's just a fantastic trope that I love every single time. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Will makes a lot of friends along the way that reminded me of like Simon and
Hmm.
all of the other friends that Quoth has at the
Like
university. Like
Will.
Will, yeah,
Will is Will is one of the friends of the university too, so that's kind of funny. But
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's that's really interesting what I hear you pointing out. I've not heard of this book
I
or
think
of
you'd like it a
Michael
lot.
G. Manning,
Yeah,
but hearing you talk about it now, I'm gonna put
put it on
my
the
money where
list.
my mouth is, and I'm gonna
Woo,
put it on my want to read right now on
let's
Goodreads,
go.
because that sounds right up my alley and probably up the alley of a lot of folks who are listening. And that's why we have you on here,
Yep.
Spencer, because you come in hot with a book that I'm like, I haven't heard of this at all. I do a freaking fantasy podcast. I've never
Right?
heard of this book, but it sounds really awesome.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned some of this already, but you're saying it reminds you of King Killer, remind Gabe of King Killer
Hmm.
too. So you
Yeah.
mentioned a little bit of what you're touching on with that. When I think of King Killer, there's a few different things that come up for me, be it the
Sure.
prose, be it Quoth as a character and narrator, be it like all sorts of things.
Yeah.
What are the main things that you're like homing in on here when you're saying it reminds you of King Killer?
I would say that the prose is occasionally excellent. I wouldn't say like it's
Hmm.
it's bad or even like mid. I would say it's like very it's good prose, but it's not like the poetic flow of King Killer.
Yeah.
But occasionally there's something in there where I'm like, wow, that was really like insightful. I would say what reminded me of King Killer is just kind of the general journey of this protagonist. And at first he's very cocky and sure of
Mm.
himself and thinks that he can do anything, and then kind of gets pushed back a little bit, and he's like, oh, maybe I don't know everything. And he's having this there's like this learning curve to really dialing in on his magic and what it means to be able to use that, and kind of like Quoth dealing with the is it the Alar, the will to do
Hmm.
everything, and kind of figuring that out. I would say there's a similar aspect with this. And Will's to start off the book, Will's parents don't die or anything, but there is like a there is like a separation because when he goes and lives with this mentor, he cannot have interactions anymore with his parents until he's like grown and older and everything. And so there's a certain level of like separation from everything he knew in the past. And he's kind of ripped away from it very suddenly. And so that's a big part of his story. And then kind of as he goes on, like I said, making friends like Quoth did in the university, like all of
Hmm.
the friendships felt very similar to King Killer. And then Will kind of like dealing with the description mentioned political intrigue, and Will is constantly, and as the series goes on it gets like crazier and crazier, but he's constantly dealing with like nobility and just people outside of his weight class. Like
Mm.
he's constantly having to figure out how to navigate in noble society when he's like a nobody, like he's like less than a nobody, and he's trying to he there at some point he goes into like this army camp and he's kind of there for half a book or something, and he's dealing with all these really high level like people in the military and these this nobility, like these ladies and stuff, and he's kind of being like pushed down at every turn, but he uses his cleverness and he has a silver tongue,
Mm.
and he uses that silver tongue to kind of wind his way through all of these like interactions in political society. And then he just like keeps moving on and kind of like going up the chain. Eventually he's like talking with kings and stuff like that. So yeah, similar in the political maneuverings of Quoth, I would say.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic explanation. You have me wanting it when Charles gets back from his paternity leave. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
see it might find its way into a friend's pitching fantasy that
Yes, let's
and
go.
yeah, it sounds really interesting. Looks like it's got a 4.4 on Goodreads, so I just
Yeah.
added to my want to read and 8,000 ratings, which is kind of in that spot of like, okay, people are reading this, but it
Yeah.
hasn't risen to like the front of people's
Right.
minds
Yeah,
in
it's got like
terms
a
of
cult following kind
yeah.
of. And
So
and
five
also,
years ago is when it came out then,
yeah,
or how, let me see.
yeah, right around there.
So is this series completed, Spencer?
It is. There's kind of it gets to a completion point, and then it has like a good ending, like a solid ending.
Hmm.
And then the author decided to go on and create like a sequel series where it's Will going
Yeah.
on to do other things. And I haven't read that series yet. I assume it's good. Gabe started to read it and he loved it. So I think it's like 5 books in the main series, and then it goes on to the sequel series, however many are out for that.
Cool. Well, plenty to read, and sounds like
Yeah.
though there's a lot that reminds you of King Killer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the rate of releasing books that
Right.
has
Yeah.
has given you
Yeah,
those
exactly.
vibes.
He's not a slow writer for sure.
No.
And also the author, if you guys read it and loved it, you'd probably be able to get the author on the podcast because I reached out to him on Twitter and he was immediately like, "Yeah, I'll come on." So I,
Yeah.
if you guys ever wanted to have him on, I'm sure he totally would.
Cool.
Um, so then my next book is the Fallen Blade series by Kelly McCullough, and this is for fans of Night Angel.
Mm.
The first book is called Broken Blade, and it's it's more in Night Angel it's kind of like this fast-paced thrill ride, and I would say this is a little bit slower but goes more into detail on how this assassin character is like breaking into these castles and stuff. Like he goes step by step, like all the way that he like thinks about his plan. And if it was a movie, it would be the scene where the character is like standing there and you just see like lines and drawings in front of them and maps and all that stuff. And that kind of gets shown on the page. You really get the layout of like how he's going to assassinate his target. But he is a assassin, and basically how this world works is there are different gods, and each god kind of has their own religious zealots. So like the sun god, all of those people are kind of like your Paladin Templar characters. And then Nemera, who is the god of this guy, he or she is the god of like assassins and death
Hmm.
basically. And so there's this whole cult that lives on this island. But before the first book starts, their island gets attacked and everybody gets slaughtered by the people from the sun god. And so he kind of goes away into the nearby city and kind of like lives there and does like assassination contracts like under the table. He's not really part of like a group anymore. He's kind of on his own. The cool thing about these assassins, or really anybody in this world, is the way that the magic works is you have a kind of like magical familiar. Like it's not necessarily an animal, but like for him, why am I forgetting his name? Let me see here.
Is
Errol.
it Errol? Yeah,
Errol.
I'm on the
Yep.
page.
And so Errol, his his familiar is the shadow of a dragon, and it's like this little tiny dragon, and he can use it to like pull shadow around himself. Like he can go into a corner and like pull the shadow around himself and hide himself, or he can like jump off of a building and like bring out like a glider basically of shadow that he like glides down on. He can turn the shadow into like a string and use that, or like a rope or whatever. So there's lots of really cool ways that this magic is introduced, because it's kind of it's like mass based. Like if you have like you could create like a square of armor on your chest that's impenetrable to like an arrow, but you wouldn't be able to like have that anywhere else. Like you could move it over your whole body, but then it would be thinner. And so there's a kind of a physics based
Mm.
aspect to the magic system. And basically what's happening is you're following the story of Errol. In the first book, he is a drunk, and like an addict, and he's kind of just like the low like dregs of society, like picking up like contracts for thievery or assassination or whatever, like in these kind of crappy taverns. Um, and you're kind of following this trajectory of him becoming a better person and like wanting to be the person that he used to be, because the goddess Nemera, her whole thing was justice. Like it wasn't just like random assassinations by contract. It was like people who deserved to be assassinated. And he's kind of like gone the complete opposite direction of that. Like, I'm just gonna kill whoever I get a contract for. And it's him slowly going on this journey of becoming the person that he used to be, that a person that like fought for justice and fought for his friends and like protected the people that were close to him. And it's kind of a redemption arc of this fall
Mm.
from grace. And so I highly recommend it. The relationship between him and his shadow Triss is fantastic. It's one of my favorite like companion uh like relationships ever, because they love each other so much. Like the his shadow has been with him since he was like 4 or 5 years old, and so they like grew up together, and now he's like in his 30s, and so it's like this
Mm.
lifelong
It's like
partner.
me and Charles,
Yes,
basically.
exactly,
So who's the
exactly.
familiar? Who's
Right.
the assassin? It's
Yeah.
unclear.
Right. Uh, So I highly recommend it. I've read the series since I was like 17 or 18. And we recently had Kelly McCullough on the channel, and I
Mm,
got the chance to tell him how much the series means to me, and that was fantastic. So highly recommend it. If you're, if you've read Night Angel and you're like, I want more roguish assassin kind
yeah.
of characters, like you cannot go wrong with Fallen Blade. It's so good. And there's like lots of different fantasy races and stuff. Like there's all sorts of different as the books go on, you meet all of these like really different like humanoid type fantasy characters that aren't as prevalent in like the very human town that he starts out in. So definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend it.
Sounds like a lot of really innovative stuff going on with that physics-based magic system,
Yes.
and it's really exciting. It has me because I was looking this one up too, and then now I'm like, okay, like
Mhm.
now Spencer's two books in, and I haven't heard of either, and that's exactly what like I was hoping for in this
Mhm.
sense. But it also has me wondering, like, so you have all these hidden gem wrecks. I'm sure you have
Mhm.
numerous more that are going to be coming our way.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, how do you find these books that you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, what are your usual techniques for finding some of these hidden gems?
That's a good question. Occasionally I'm browsing Reddit and I'll see it pop up on Reddit. But mostly it's me finishing a book and having a book hangover and going on to Audible and just scrolling. Just like scrolling through Audible like what cover looks cool, like what little bite-sized description have I seen that really like stands out to me. And I think Art of the Adept was just from like scrolling Audible and just
Mm.
finding it. I was like, oh, that's a cool looking cover. Fallen Blade series, I read since I was young. I think I picked it up. I was like 17 and I was at a Barnes and Noble and I just saw it on the shelf and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And I just kind of picked it up and started with the first book and fell in love with it. But then others, I think it's really good to for any of the viewers or listeners here, when you go on YouTube, I'm not saying not to watch the channels that are like Daniel Green or Captured in Words or Murphy Napier. But just remember that those channels are as big as they are because they're talking about the most popular content. They're talking about the most like in your face, like biggest name fantasy series. Because I'm not saying that they're doing it for views, but that is like what gets the views and gets the subscriber count up, right? I would say, if you're looking for just like the really random nitty-gritty books, go find your YouTuber that has 400 subscribers. Go find somebody that has 1,000 subscribers because they may be the ones where they're like, hey, I grew up reading this series that nobody else knows about and it's really good. Like me with Fallen Blade, it's like I just happened to pick it up when I was young, and now I talk about it on the internet and hopefully people find it and read it.
Yeah,
But
hopefully
yeah,
they
I
do.
yeah, I would definitely say check out the recommendations of, you guys have had a number of recommendations on your podcast where it's like I've never heard about, like I haven't read it yet, but I hadn't heard of Chathrin Voyage.
Oh yeah.
And so that was a new one to me. I'm like, oh, I should check that out. And so I think it's really good for viewers and listeners to go find the podcast or YouTuber that maybe isn't like the top 10.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think so interesting. You bring up Chathern Voyage, and
Hmm.
that's one that it holds a really special place in my heart.
Hmm.
And it is that kind of discovery of something that you're like it feels
Yeah, kind of
almost a little bit
niche.
more
Yeah.
yours
Hmm.
when it's something
Yep.
that not every fantasy fan has read, and then
Yeah.
you can almost start to become a champion of something. You're like,
Yeah.
why don't more people read this book? And then it's
Right.
like, yeah, been very interesting to get to, like, that's been one that we have championed. Like we had
Yeah.
Robert V.S. Reddick, author of the Chat Third Voyage series, like do a whole like
Yeah.
read along with us. So we did
And
along with Blaze
you've
from
read that since you
Under
were
the
young,
Radar
right?
books. Yeah, I mean, youngish. Like
Yeah.
now, I feel like I've done it since I was very young. But at the
Right, yeah.
time, I'm trying to think. Like I was probably late teens,
Yeah,
which was
exactly.
a long time ago. But
Right.
it's yeah, it was an awesome series, and also I think there is a magic to this, like uh, that almost feels a little bit lost, and I'm as guilty as
Hmm.
anyone of like just going into the bookstore and just seeing some cool cover or whatever, and just picking
Right.
it up and being like, "Huh, I've never heard of this," and then just
Right.
leaving with it. Which maybe lots of people are doing that, but if you're anything like me, you go right to Goodreads. Oh, how many ratings? How many stars? Like, oh,
Yeah.
don't usually read books under 4 stars. It's like,
Sure.
and I like for me, trying to get out of my own
It's
head
so
with
hard
that
to
way
break
of doing
that.
things
It's
is
so hard to
is
break
very
that.
difficult. And it's
Hmm.
like, it's protective because I'm like, oh, I like really want to
Yeah.
like make sure my time is being used for something I'm gonna enjoy, but it's also like I don't know, kind of sad because the times that I've done that have been some of the most like special reads that
Yeah.
I've actually had. And also,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm lucky. I think we've gotten the chance to stay abreast of some of the like stuff we might not have read otherwise is when like people, publishers or whatever, the publicists, I should say, will like reach out and be like, "Do you want to read this book?" And it's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
That looks like something I never would have like thought was in my wheelhouse, but we'll give it a
Yeah.
try." And like we've read some awesome books doing that too. But um yeah, when I go to the bookstore,
Hmm.
I struggle to just because there are books there that I'm like, I
Yeah.
know I'm like pretty in touch with
Hmm.
I think of myself at least as pretty in touch with the like fantasy world, but there's still so many books on there I haven't heard of on in like
I
a bookstore.
know.
And I'll pick them up and I'll be like hesitant if I haven't heard a lot of things about them, but that's like sad.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the bookstore experience and like going and kind of like cover shopping,
Yeah.
I tell indie authors all the time, you know, if you're gonna put money into anything, put it into your cover because that really is, I think a good cover, like, there's the old maxim, like, don't judge a book by its cover. We all do it all the
Yeah.
time, always. And I say, like, if you're an indie author, put as much money as you can into your cover or find like a really, really good artist that can do it on the cheap or whatever. But like the cover really does matter. Like it's like the cover doesn't not matter. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Do
for
do you,
sure.
do you do a lot of cover shopping?
I mean, I think it's more in a roundabout way that the cover ends up mattering for me, where like I I think first of all, in a world driven by like visual media, especially like short for form visual media like TikTok and uh, Instagram Reels and things like that, like the people making that content want to be showing you something that just like aesthetically looks good. So
Hmm.
then when like I always think of when it comes to covers like Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne is like a
Yes. What a
classic one,
great cover.
right? Unbelievable cover, right? If you haven't seen it for whatever reason, you probably have if you're listening, but
Hmm.
it's just there's like beautiful white cover. It's like a lot of dragon taking up the
Yes.
cover, and it has this like tiny little like person
Tiny
there
little man.
that
Yeah.
is like, and you figure just the way it looks, it's like, okay, this is like a typically sized human right here. And that dragon is just
Is
freaking ginormous, and the scale of it and just the detail of it. It's just a beautiful cover, right?
yeah.
And I think that thing was this was back when like
Hmm.
Twitter, was Twitter.
Right.
And I was on
Yeah.
all the time and Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And you just see that cover
It's
everywhere because
everywhere.
everyone wanted to show you it and wanted to look
Hmm.
at it. So it's hugely important for getting your book out there. I totally
Yeah.
agree. I try not to judge a book by its cover, but as you said, like, of course, like slightly more attracted to something
Yeah.
that's like, oh, this looks interesting.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything so wrong with that. I
I
mean,
don't either.
it's not
I
foolproof, but
I think it shows if you put a lot of thought into your book cover, I think it shows that that's what you think of your book. Like if you're willing to put
mm,
all like more of your energy into the book cover, it's like yeah, it shows that you like really, really like care about this and believe in the story that you're going to put time and effort into a good book cover. Now, are like some of the best books I've ever read have had a very basic cover. I'm not saying that it's
yeah.
like
I mean, look at
it's
Name
not
of the
like a
Wind's like original
oh I
cover. It's just
know
like
God.
a dude
Oh,
in a cloak.
it's
It's
just
like
a
it could
dude in
be
a
any
cloak.
fantasy book
Oh
ever
my
to
God.
exist.
It's such a
Yeah,
bad cover. I always whenever I buy a physical edition of Name of the Wind, I always get the UK cover because
yeah,
the I just can't do the US one.
for sure.
Uh
It's a pretty brutal one. They definitely
yeah.
did Rothfuss dirty, but didn't seem to
Yeah.
hurt the sales too much.
Yeah,
But
didn't seem to hurt the
um,
sales. It definitely you know, had its success just by word of mouth.
yeah, I mean,
All
it was a
right.
different world back there. Let's word of mouth some of your
Yeah.
your hidden gems. Let's get back to that list.
So I have The Vagrant by Peter Newman. Um,
Vagrant.
and this is a it's kind of a post-apocalypse story where the technology is very Fallout in nature. Like it's all kind of this
Hmm.
janky technology that people have like cobbled together in a junkyard somewhere. Everybody's using like swords because nobody really has a whole lot of guns anymore. There's the occasional person with like a taser or something that they made, a lot of it is like melee weapons. But it's not the big summer blockbuster, post-apocalyptic movie that you're thinking of. It is a much slower and more somber and kind of tragic at times
Mm.
story. And it
More
actually
Sad Max than Mad Max.
yes, exactly. And it reminded me a lot of The Road, if you've read that. But
Mm.
it is fantasy, like it's very fantasy. And the person that we follow is simply named the Vagrant. He doesn't have a name as far as we know at the beginning of the book. And he's kind of got this cloak that he wears. He's got a sword on one side, and in one of his arms is a baby and he is trying to make his way across the wasteland to a safe city far off in the distance to get this baby to safety. Along the way, he meets good people, he meets bad people, he meets bad people that you think are good people. He meets people that are, pulling the wool over his eyes and like trying to trick him, but he's smart. He's not like a stupid guy. And the interesting thing about this is you're walking through this world and you're seeing all of these people that you can kind of make a snap judgment on whether they're a good person or a bad person. Um, and some people will surprise you that he meets along the way. But the interesting thing about the vagrant is he is mute.
Hmm.
So you're not getting any dialogue from him at all. None.
Mm.
You're not getting any inner monologue at all from him.
Hmm.
And so you're watching this character and you become intimately familiar with him. And at the start of the book, you truly do not know if he's a good person or a bad person. You don't know how he got this baby. You don't know what his plans are for it. You don't know what he thinks of the people around him, like if he wants to rob everybody around him or like what his deal is.
Hmm.
At least at the start, the only way that you can judge his character is literally just by watching him and seeing what his actions are. And I think it's a really cool storytelling device because, you know, if you think about any other book you've read, we get introduced to our main character, and what do we hear? We hear them talking, we hear them discussing things with people, and through those conversations, we get an idea of what this person is like pretty much right away. Like we either know, oh, this guy is a family man, or this guy is a soldier that cares about his country, or all these things. But when you get the Vagrant, you don't know anything about him, and it is left up to the reader to judge
Mm.
his actions as he goes throughout the story and decide for yourself whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. And it was such a fantastic reading experience. I can't give it enough praise. It was so cleverly done, and there was times where I truly didn't know if this guy was a good guy or a bad guy. And it was kind of like you kind of just got to like get to the end of the story and see like what all of his actions, his deeds, see what all those add up to. And that's what was so fascinating about the story. And along the way, of course, you meet lots of really just amazing characters and like some awesome like robots and androids and all sorts of cool stuff that are out there in the wasteland, and lots of cool technology. So yeah, that's one I always recommend for an uncommon read, because it really is a an experience for sure.
Yeah, seems uncommon in a lot of the storytelling elements, and you have me pretty intrigued. I did
Yeah.
look it up on Goodreads, and I saw Mark Lawrence read it and rated it five
Yes.
stars.
Yep.
Um, so that's always, Mark, we're huge fans of, and he's a friend of the show, and
Yep.
we're always really excited. Much like we're very excited to hear you talking about how much you enjoy it. We also feel that way about Mark, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. We talk a lot. I want to do this without spoiling
Mm-hmm.
anything, but like we talk a lot, Charles and I, when it comes to First Law, about like how magnificently Joe Abercrombie plays with the idea of like the difference between how characters think about themselves and
Yeah.
what you get from being so tight to
Yeah.
their own perspective and way of seeing the world and all that kind of stuff, that you can kind of start to think, oh, they're the kind of person that they see themselves as. And a
Right.
lot of
Yes.
times their
They're not.
actions don't actually align at all with that story that they're telling themselves.
Right.
And that's really interesting to see from Abercrombie. It's one of our favorite parts about this, but it's, uh, that's fun to be tricked kind of.
Yes.
But uh, this is a totally different kind of
Mm-hmm.
take on it, where
Right.
it's not about trying to trick you. It's
Mm-hmm.
just about leaving it up to the reader to just
Yeah.
see the actions for what they are. Like if we are just the things that we do, right?
Yes.
If we aren't the
Yeah.
things that we say or the things that we think about ourselves, we're just the things we do and put out into the world, then what does that say about us?
Mm-hmm.
And to think, okay, my entire judgment of this character is going to be based on his like physical observable actions is like
Yeah.
very interesting and not
Isn't that
something
cool?
that I really have a reference point to say like, oh, that's like this.
Right.
It's like it's kind of the complete opposite direction of a
Mm-hmm.
like quote unreliable narrator kind of
Yeah.
thing, or a uh, first law. We're so close to their perspective that we can't see the
Mm-hmm.
forest for the trees. It's like this is
Yeah.
really cool. So that's I'm gonna keep that one on my radar too, because
Very cool.
people I really respect their opinions. They're saying great things
Yeah.
about it, and it's interesting and different, uncommon
Yeah.
indeed.
For sure. By the way, speaking of Joe Abercrombie, have you guys read The Devils?
So I'm about uh, with all my moving, I've been delayed on a lot of the reading. I just moved to Miami from Colorado for any
Yeah.
listeners that weren't aware of that, or viewers. But so I'm behind where I want to be on it. But now that I'm down in Miami, I'm hoping to get some time by the pool to really focus on it.
Nice.
So I
Yeah.
am, I think, a little over 50% into the
Okay,
Devils,
cool.
and Charles has finished it. But
Okay, yeah, I would say the second half of the book is leagues better than the first half.
that's interesting.
Like if
Yeah.
you were already enjoying the first half, you're gonna like the second half way,
Okay.
way, way, way more. Like I I'm not there's been so many good books this year. I don't know if it would make it into my top five, but it's really, really, really close. It's really
Mm.
close.
Yeah, that's good to hear that the second half is stronger. The way I've kind of been framing my experience with it is that like the first law books are, it's
Goated.
basically yeah, like maybe my favorites, there's a couple
Hmm.
others in the mix like King Killer and stuff, but uh, maybe my favorite series of all time. And
Right.
then like you throw us into a new world with new characters and it's not familiar in the way that I feel about First
Sure.
Law, you have a little bit of an uphill battle to like
Yeah.
be at that tier, even when
Hmm.
you are Joe Abercrombie himself writing with that
Right.
incredible Joe Abercrombie voice. And that's certainly there with the Devil.
Hmm.
So it's been super enjoyable. And I've kind of been describing it as like, this is almost definitely a 5-star read for me. It's
Hmm.
just, I don't know yet if
Hmm.
it's quite going to reach the pinnacle of what I have loved about First Law series. Like,
Yeah. I'll
so I'm
be
still feeling that out.
Okay, yeah, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts when you finish it because I think there was a turning point for me. I'll say that. There
Interesting.
was a point in the book where I was like I'm enjoying this significantly more than I was before. And I
Hmm.
think you're probably like almost either almost there or like maybe you're like right at the turning point.
And with no
It'll come
spoilers, is
soon.
there there's like a moment that shifted that, or just
Um
like it started to move in that direction?
it just like started to move in that direction. I
Okay.
wouldn't say there was like a hinge point where it's like, oh, this thing happened and then I started to love it. But there was like a definite like point in the book, like a percentage range in the book, like between like the 55 to 60% mark where I was like, oh, this is getting way, way better.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get to that point, but I'm also excited
Yes.
to get your next recommendation.
Okay, so I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I think probably a lot of people have heard of it. It's one of the more like popular indie series, but it's Threadlight by Zach
Mm.
Argyle, and
Yeah,
I have the beautiful
that is gorgeous.
faux leather bound edition.
It's a reason to head
Um,
to our YouTube, our fledgling YouTube
Yes, go to
page.
YouTube so you can see the beautiful edition
Yes,
and all the sprayed edges and everything.
right.
But yeah, this is for the fans of Mistborn. And I don't want to get hopes up by saying that because it doesn't have the same like Sanderlanche that Mistborn has. But it has really amazing characters that you're gonna love, and the magic system as far as like the like iron and steel, like the push and
Hmm.
pull. That's what this magic system is. It's very like they if they have green eyes, I think they can push. If they have blue eyes, they can pull. And it's based on light. Like if there's like blue light around them, then they can do certain things. Um,
Well,
but
this is
then
Voice of War is the
Voice of
first
War is the
book, right?
first one.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
This is definitely one I've seen all over the place and definitely seen Zach Argyle like as an
Yes.
author on social media and stuff. So
Yep.
though I
Yep.
haven't read it, we are now in the realm of Dylan knows about this
Yeah,
book.
for sure. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I would say it's one of the more popular indie books. And you're basically following Chris and his wife who have to escape their town that they're living in because there is someone that is after their baby. They just had this baby, and there is someone that wants the baby because the baby has a new power that has kind of come into the world.
Hmm.
And so they're on the run from that. And throughout the story, you meet other characters. It has a great a character who is like a bad guy, like he is the enemy, and then he has a redemption arc. And by the end of like the second book, he's like on the good guy team and stuff. So it has like that kind of trope that I really, really love. And so that character is just phenomenal. But yeah, you get awesome like just like relationship stuff with Chris and his wife and them like trying to care for this baby that has just come into the world. And kind of all of the rules of this society and um one of the things that's like introduced at the beginning is if you're it's something to the effect of if your child does not have blue or green eyes, then they have to be like blinded and work for like the church or whatever as like basically like their version of like a eunuch basically. And there's a whole thing at the beginning that kind of like there's a big cluster that happens at the beginning of the book where they're just about to do that and something a twist of fate kind of happens. So I don't want to give too much away, but you're following Chris and his wife and their child on the run trying to get to safety and all of these enemies that are kind of following in their wake after them. And then they make friends and they you kind of get this whole team by the end and it's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
That's exciting stuff. And if nothing else, you get that beautiful copy. Hopefully, is that still available in
It
some way,
he
or
he
was it like
might
a
he might have
limited?
some on his website.
Yeah,
This was a Kickstarter that I backed.
gotcha. Yeah, that
And
thing's gorgeous.
yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Um
Yeah.
so now we're into my top three. Um I have We Break Immortals by Thomas Howard Riley.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite books of all time. All three of these are. And this is fantastic. I'll read the description will probably do a better job than I will. Um, in a world where most people use swords for protection, Aaron uses tools that let him see what no one else can to hunt the deadliest people in the world. He is a render tracer, taking advantage of loopholes that can undo magic in order to stop rogue sorcerers. But his next hunt will throw him into a world where he can't trust anything, not even his own eyes. So basically, in this world, magic users have to be um, like registered with the government. Like they have to know that you're out there and practicing magic in an okay way. But there's lots of rogue magic users that are hunted and tracked down. Um, and magic has a way of like some people can handle magic perfectly fine and they're just like normal people with magic. But with some people, it turns them into like kind of like psychopaths. Like some people, it makes them go rogue and just do like really, really awful, brutal things with magic. And so Aaron's job is to use a loophole in the magic system that helps him track down all of these rogue sorcerers that are like killing people and doing awful things. But then sometimes he's part of the government, like he works for the government. So sometimes he has to track down magic users that aren't doing anything bad. They're just on the run. Like they just don't want to be like registered with the government for whatever reason. And sometimes he has to hunt them down too, and that's like a sad part of his job. And so you get him, but he's also not like at the very beginning, he's not necessarily a likable person. Like he's not like a good guy. And you kind of follow him throughout the story, and he meets up with all of these other characters, like Corin, who is this kind of like foul-mouthed, very like innuendo-driven, sword master kind of guy. He's like a mercenary, but he's like a sword master. And he gets like hired onto the team and this other girl Elaine comes on and she is the daughter of someone in nobility that kind of joins the team, and so you get like a very group focused story, like a group on a quest together. They're going to hunt down this really big bad rogue sorcerer. This book has just like one of my favorite romances of all time. It's not a romance book by any means, but it has like just one of my all-time favorite romances. And one of the best magic systems I've ever read. Basically, how it works is there's like this vague like cloud of magic that's kind of just like able to be pulled upon by mages. And what's in this cloud is different attributes. So you could pull down the attribute of like square, flat, plane, and like the shape. And then you could pull down the attribute of very low friction and put that on the square. And then you could put like transparency, like make it clear, and then set that on the floor. And then when someone walks into the room, they slip on the square because it's like this shape that the mage has made that has these certain properties to it. You could also do like you could pull in the shape of a ball at a certain size. You could make its temperature really hot. You could add speed to it to make it fly 100 miles an hour, and you have like a super fast fireball, right? And so you're pulling all of these different attributes, and it gets really cool because you run into these situations where the magic system is being used in ways that just completely like break the system, that are just completely like, wow, I did not think about using magic in that way. Like there's a certain part of the book where this person has made a cylinder and it goes way up into the sky and way down into the ground, so you can't like climb out of it, like someone's trapped inside of it, and it's slowly like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And it's just because they pulled all these different like shapes and attributes out of the stream. And so magic system is like one it's I look at the magic system and I'm like, you could literally do anything with this. You could do any kind of magic spell. It leaves it totally open for really good like creativity and stuff. Um, but back to the characters, they're going on this quest. They go through just so many trials and tribulations. Like it is so incredibly tragic, the things that happen along the way. And this book made me cry at least like 4 or 5 times while I read it. Like it like full on like crying while I was reading it.
Wow.
It really like brings out those amazing emotional moments. It makes you care about characters that you didn't think you would, and just like really it's just it's the whole home run. It's like everything you want in a fantasy book. The only downside of it is it is a tome.
Chonker.
It is
Yeah.
a big boy. It's as big as a Stormlight book or like an early Stormlight book. Um, so just be aware. He did put out a novella called The Monsters We Feed, and it's much shorter. It's like,
Good title.
like that thick. Yeah, it's such a good title. And it's a prequel to or a prequel to We Break Immortals. And it's a quick read, and you can totally read it before reading this. So if you just want a taste of his
Hmm.
writing style or whatever, I think his prose is excellent. His characters are excellent, so highly recommend that. Um,
Yeah, Spencer, I really appreciate you bringing this one up because I don't think we've talked about it on
mm.
the show before, but it's you actually got to a book that is already on my want to read on
Oh,
Goodreads and has
nice.
been there for a while though, and you actually kind of made me slightly like nostalgic and sad because I was like thinking about like Thomas is super nice and
Hmm.
like we used to interact actually quite a
Mm.
bit on
Yeah.
Twitter but before he became an author
Oh,
just
cool.
like as members of the community and like was probably one of the people that we like interacted with most often
Yeah.
back in the day. So it's like, oh geez, like I feel like I have all these friends. It's like when you
Yeah.
graduate
Hmm.
college and you maybe stay in touch with every single person. Like,
Yeah.
oh no,
Right.
like I hope like so I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you get the chance to like interact with him at all about
Yeah.
the
I
book
I
or like have him on the show at all or
Yeah,
anything like
he's
that?
he's he's been on the show a bunch, and he always sends me like whatever his most recent book is. Like
Awesome.
he came out with The Light of Casaban is on my shelf somewhere.
Hmm.
That's another like novella. And then he came out with The Last Gasp of Midnight, I think is his newest one. And he sent me that one. And so yeah, I'm a big
Nice.
fan of his, and yeah, we talk all the time. He's
That's
awesome.
great. Well, send him my best,
I
and
will for sure.
yeah, that's really cool. He really has a gift for those titles. I will say, I'm
Yeah, aren't
like,
they
because
good?
We
I
Break
love,
Immortals is great,
yeah.
and each one you just mentioned, I was like, that's good too.
Yeah, The
So
Monsters We Feed is such a good title. So
that is
good.
like really top notch, that
Yeah.
one. But yeah, that's really cool. I've always heard this one described as like very grim dark, which many of our listeners and
I
readers are
I would
usually
say
into.
I would say it's not so much grimdark.
Interesting.
It's very like epic fantasy, but the way he describes it, which I think is perfect, is rated R epic fantasy. Like
Okay.
it is like fully adult, fully like everything happens on page. You see it all, you hear it all, and it's not pretty a lot of the time. But it's not like in a hopeless world. It's not like in this
Right.
grim dark, like oppressing world. It's in like an epic fantasy adventure kind of world, but it is very serious. It's like a very
That's
serious
interesting.
adult story. So yeah, that's the way I describe it.
Gotcha. So it's not going to give you that like sense of hopelessness that can often come from grim
No,
dark, but
but you know
it's
what will is my next recommendation.
nice. Good seg. You can tell this guy is a pro. He's been in the podcast game for years now. Go ahead. I interrupted
So
your seg to congratulate you on how
no,
good
you're
this movie
good.
was,
You're
but
good.
yes, go.
Yeah. I did have to pat myself on the shoulder with that segue.
Yeah.
So I say this to people all the time who are like, I've just read the first Law trilogy. I have this huge like book hangover. What do I read?
Right.
And I tell them you could not, like you literally, unless you were reading like Prince of Thorns or something, you literally couldn't find a better book to read that is adjacent to the first law
Hmm.
than We Men of Ash and Shadow by Holly
Okay.
Tinsley. This, look at that cover. Like it is
Yeah. I like the
gorgeous.
color of that. It's like
Yeah.
that green.
hmm
Yeah.
It is set in like a almost like a gas lamp type setting, like very like
Mm.
Victorian era kind of stuff. And it's set in the city of Dorsey, and you follow John Vanguard, who is kind of a mercenary. He used to be in the military, but his life has kind of gone downhill. He's turned into a bit of an alcoholic, and he's kind of just like he rents a room, but it's like a bathroom in a brothel. And so he like sleeps in the bathtub. And I'm like, I don't know if you can get more grimdark than that. uh, and the opening line, or like one of the opening lines to the book is it's like showing this bar. Um yeah, it was the most highly recommended venue the city had to offer. It was called the Ring of Bastards, and it had the lowest patron to murder victim rate in a 5 mile radius. Inevitably, as within any bar, there would be the occasional spot of trouble. An unwitting stranger would wander in from another part of town looking for a drink and a good time, and instead find a fight and a broken nose. Where's the part about um, there's something about the bar having like six prostitutes inside it, but only having three legs between them, because they had all been like amputated and stuff. And so it's like super dark, like it's super super grim dark. It's set in the city that is like completely unforgiving. Like it is basically it's a city of criminals. Like the city has been almost like escaped from New York. It's been like walled off. Like nobody can get in or out, or except for the occasional delivery of goods at the gate or whatever. Um, but everybody who's there is stuck there, and John Vanguard is a kind of a mercenary. He's like a hitman for the main guy that runs the city. Sanquin is his name, and he basically like overthrew the government, like any type of like kings or queens or anything, they're all gone. And this Sanquin is the criminal ruler of this city, and John has to work for him, basically killing whoever he tells him to. Now, the book or the series doesn't really have a whole lot of magic, but Vanguard does have one thing that is really peculiar. For some reason, he can go invisible almost at will. He can usually decide to go invisible and just not be able to be seen. Um, and that's how he, gets away with a lot of his hits and how he survives and stuff. And so as he's going about doing this, he finds this other kid that has like family issues. They used to be a noble house, but they've fallen from grace, and now they just live in this like dilapidated mansion that's like falling apart, and nobody gives their family like any respect anymore because they're just like something happened. I forget what it was, but their time has come and gone. And his mom has dementia, and half the time she doesn't remember who this kid is. Taryn is his name. And so he's just got like a really tough life, and him and Vanguard cross paths. And Vanguard realizes that this kid has the same ability, if you can call it that. He has the same like going invisible thing that Vanguard has. And so Vanguard tries to take him under his wing, but Terran is like a true psychopath. Like he is really like messed up in the head. And so Vanguard kind of gets in too deep with this kid and is like taking him under his wing for a while and then kind of like competing with him, and it gets really interesting, and you get characters that are very lovable like Carmen. She's one of the prostitutes at the brothel, and Vanguard very much like cares for these women and like tries to protect them from people that are trying to do them harm and stuff. And so it's like the one little gold nugget that you see of him where it's like, okay, like maybe he is a good person underneath it all. And that's one of the best parts about the series is just kind of like going through these books and seeing how people you thought were good like become really bad, and people that you thought like, oh, this is kind of a shitty person, like, oh, sorry, my bad. um
That's okay.
this is kind of a crappy person. They they have like a redemption arc, and it's the thing. It's quintessentially the thing I love about Grimdark, where you take this hopeless situation, this hopeless city that is so oppressive, and this world that just wants to keep everybody down, and finding these little tiny gold nuggets within it, and these people that are like bad people, but they're trying to get their humanity back. They're trying to like feel something again. Um, and it's just it is the heart of grimdark. Like that is why
Mm,
I love this subgenre, and I love seeing the flaws of people, because even the worst people in this series, like, you're like, I kind of get it though. Like I
mm,
kind of understand why they are this way. There's this one character, my favorite character in the entire series. You have to do the audiobook because his voice is just, oh, chef's kiss. RJ Bailey does the narration, and he is excellent. But his name is Mandego, and he is kind of this like lunatic crime lord. Like he is absolutely like up the wall insane, just like very like Joker-esque.
mm.
And he's so good. He's such an excellent character that I cannot get enough of. And he has his own little band of misfits that Vanguard has to like interact with sometimes, and it's always just the most insane things come out of this man's mouth that are like how did the author even think to write that? Like that is so crazy. It's so good. It makes me laugh hysterically. But most of all, it's just the world crafting. Like everything like Holly Tinsley has thought about every single detail of this city, and it comes to life in such a vibrant and beautiful way where I'm like, this idea is fully realized within this book. You get into the second book, and we do see other areas outside the city, but as far as like the city of Dorsey, it's like you have really thought about every little thing, and it really shows. On top of that, this is a book that I picked up when it first got its audiobook release. It is an indie title, and Holly and I and RJ, we've all become very, very good friends. She's been on the
That's
podcast
awesome.
numerous times. She put my dog Hank into her second book. She wrote
That's
him into
really
her
cool.
book. And so yeah, there's a scene in there where you see Hank like kind of waddling around on the floor, and he like takes a leak on a table leg or something. And so yeah, we've become like very, very good friends, and I love this series so much. I think it has the same kind of voice that the First Law has, where it's very like, I don't know, how would you describe that like irreverent, kind of like
Like
just,
a biting, dark
yeah,
sense of humor in
yeah,
the
like a
prose.
biting
Like, yeah,
snark kind of like very borderline like ironic kind of,
I could
it
hear
has
that
that
in some
same.
of the, what you read from just that little tidbit
Yes. Yeah,
earlier.
exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty exciting to hear, and I think a great recommendation for lots of our viewers and listeners because that's like I would say First Law is
Hmm.
probably the series most beloved by our
Hmm.
like average
Yeah.
listener or viewer. Like based on the feedback we get, we've just picked up a lot of those
Yeah.
folks that we love who are
Yeah.
big Grimdark fans. So
Hmm.
that's a great one for them to check out, and then they can check
Yeah.
out Fantasy Files to watch you
Yeah.
chat with
We
Holly
we
and.
have yes, we have tons of coverage of We Men of Ash and Shadows and the sequel, The Hand That Cast the Bone. And she's been on the podcast. We throw her a birthday party every year. And so she comes on the podcast, and I usually have some like outrageous cake that I've made for the birthday party. So so yeah, high recommend for me. This is like one of my favorite books of all time, hands down. It's just an
Awesome.
excellent read, great for Grimdark fans. And then lastly is,
But not leastly, I
but not
imagine.
leastly, it is maybe my favorite series of all time. It fights for the top spot with the Dresden Files.
Mm.
And this is a book that I recommended to you guys upon threat of physical violence.
Oh, geez.
This is King's Dark Tidings. When you
Okay,
guys,
yes, I
do you remember
do.
this?
I'm not sure I remember the threats of physical
Yeah,
violence. I might have
when
tried to repress that, but
you guys put out a thing to Twitter saying, "Hey, we have all these Audible credits and we don't know what to
oh,
do with
yes, yes.
them." And I messaged you guys and I
I
said
remember the
something to the
message.
extent I was like, if you guys don't buy Free the Darkness, the first book in King's Dark Tidings series, I will find a way to wire an explosive and mail it to you.
Well,
It was something
that
along those lines.
that's a different level right there, Spencer. That's the first. I guess we've made it because that's the first death threat that we've received as creators. But
Yeah.
let me. I I
Yeah,
think I can find it
I'll
right
give the
now.
pitch. I'll give the
Look at
pitch. You
this.
find
You
the.
ready?
Oh, you got it?
See, I already have. Oh, wait.
Okay.
See, now everyone can see my background
Oh,
is
you
my
have it.
fake
I see.
gold
Yes.
background.
Yeah, you
See?
did buy
You
it.
see? I did
Yep.
buy it. So it's it is not no need for any sort of explosives. We're
Right.
probably gonna have to cut that off of the YouTube. Like
Oh,
how's the YouTube out? You're the YouTube person. The
I don't
YouTube
think it'll
algorithm cannot
it
take kindly to your death threats, but
I don't think it'll
uh,
do anything. But
but Spotify
yeah,
doesn't
so
care.
so when you So when you guys bought it when you did your episode on, we have all these credits, like what do we do with them? You guys ended up buying Free the Darkness, which I was really happy with. Man, my dog just wants to get in the camera here.
Oh,
This
he's
is Hank.
welcome. Yeah. Say hi to
Um,
Hank, a book character and real life dog.
right, yep. So King's Dark Tidings is an excellent series. First of all, the audiobook done by the same guy that did King Killer. So if you want more Nick Podell,
Nick
he does
Burnell,
the
yeah.
he does the audiobook. But this is the story of Rezkin, who grows up in a fortress, not really being able to see the outside world at all, and he's trained 24/7 to be the most lethal killing machine possible. And so not only is he a killing machine, but he's also trained in all of these other ways of like covert operation. So like he can impersonate nobility, he can impersonate royalty, he can do he could be a carpenter if he wanted to know everything about carpentry, and he knows everything about maps and the layout to all of the biggest like fortresses in the world, and he's trained on all of these things all the time until he's like 19 years old. And the the thing that's cool about him is like, yes, he is a bit of a Mary Sue, but it's by design. Like he is meant to be the most perfect like covert operative that you can possibly be. But his fault comes in where he has not really been outside the fortress. Like he hasn't like interacted with real people, and so he doesn't know. He's very like emotionally stunted and very like socially stunted. He doesn't know how to interact with people. He can fake being like a court jester or like a nobility or whatever, but he doesn't know how to be a friend. He doesn't know how to be um anything other than this super soldier basically. And so something happens early on in the story. He turns 19 and he's about to be given his first like real world mission, like this is what you're going to do with your life, because up until this point he doesn't know why he's been trained this way. And so he he comes out for like this ceremony, and something happens at the fortress and everybody dies before he was able to get his last orders or anything. um and as one of his mentor, and he has all these rules, there's like 170 something odd rules, like never be caught, like always stay in the shadows when you can, like think quickly and smartly, and like all these different like rules that kind of shape how he lives in the world. And he was waiting for the last two rules to be told to him, and as his mentor is dying, he decides to not give Reskin what the last two rules really are. And he tells him, always protect and honor your friends and kill with conscience. And those are not really what the last two rules were supposed to be. But since he's dying, he decides to just like try to put some good into the world and gives Reskin these last two rules. Sort of like there's more that gets revealed about that, but that's the basic premise. And so Reskin goes into the world and he's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't know what all this is for. Like, I don't know why I was trained to be like this super killing machine. But the last thing he told me is to protect and honor my friends. Like, what is a friend? And so he goes out into the world and has to figure this out. And it's really like there are times where it's like really sad and lonely, and other times where he ends up making friends, and he takes that really, really, really seriously, because all of the rules have been drilled into his head as like, you cannot disobey this rule. Like this rule is your entire life, and for like every single rule on the list. And so for him, protecting and honoring his friends, he takes it to like the nth degree. And that's kind of what shapes his interactions with people outside the fortress. And becoming a friend to Reskin, it's not like a friend in the way that we throw around the term. It like really, really, really means something. Like when like there are times in this series where somebody has been like kind of like crowned a friend of Reskin, and it's brought me to tears because it means so much.
Mm,
And so there's just amazing moments like that. You get a fantastic cast of characters, and there's emotional highs and emotional lows, and Nick Podell does such a good job. There's a scene in book two where one of Reskin's friends has disrespected him, and the person that is like Reskin's bodyguard, for lack of a better term, is just like he like pushed him up against the wall in the hallway, and he's yelling at Reskin's friend that disrespected him, and he's basically like saying he gave you everything and like all this stuff, and he's like you disown him, you do this, you do this, and Nick Podell is like screaming this into the microphone, and
mm.
it's just the best performance I've ever heard. It's so over the top and so good. Nick Podell is just a master of his craft. And there's scenes like that literally just bring me to tears all the time. And you end up I'll wrap up soon, I promise, but you end up going on this big epic adventure. And even though Reskin is like an assassin, it's not really a grimdark book at all. It's more of like epic fantasy. And you go on this big adventure that spans continents, and you see how other countries and civilizations do things very different than the main country that you're in at the beginning. And you go all over the world, and the scale just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and every character gets more and more powerful. And the political landscape that is happening across the world just becomes absolutely insane with like huge ramifications. And oh God, it is so good. I can't recommend it enough. My favorite thing about it is the characters. Every single one of the characters is A plus plus plus. Like they're all fantastic. And last thing I'll say, Tyrion Nereus in the first book, you hate him. By the end of the second book, maybe into the third book, he is one of my favorite characters of all time. It's one of the best redemption arcs in all of fantasy, and I don't feel like that's a spoiler. It's clear that she's going that way when you first meet him, but it's just amazing character arcs. Just I've never read better character arcs than King's Dark Tidings. So, high recommend from me. That's my number one of the list.
Well, that is really high praise, and we often say we're very character focused readers over here. You know, we always did those character profiles and stuff like
Hmm.
that for the First Law series, and
Yeah.
yeah, to say that those are some of the best characters that you've read in fantasy. I know you've read a lot of fantasy, so that is
Mhm.
extremely high praise. It is, I have downloaded it on
Nice.
Audible. And yeah, Nick Podell, if so, King Killer is one of those I've read multiple times. I've done it reading physically, I've done it reading uh, through the audiobook, and I'll say, a though I really love both, there's something about that Nick Podell performance that by the end of it,
Hmm.
you're like, geez, like that's Quoth, like that's
Yeah.
Quoth's voice
Hmm.
right there. So it would be an adjustment to be listening to it and be like, that's not Quoth.
That's
But
that's
I
what
have
I thought.
a lot
That
of faith in Nick Podell that he
yeah.
will pull it off. And you said Resnick is the name, so
Reskin.
Reskin.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Yeah.
by the end you're feeling okay, that's Reskin, and
That's Reskin. Yeah. And the thing is Nick Podell is so like varied with his voices. Even the narrative voice that he uses is not the same as King Killer, at
that's
least as
good.
far as I can tell. Like it's there's a degree of separation where you're not like, I feel like I'm listening to King Killer. It just feels like you're just fully immersed in this story. Like every character has a very specific voice that he uses, like with very specific like intonations to their speech and everything. And it's just fantastic. And it brings out the humor so much more. Like the way that he like reads the lines sometimes will make me laugh out loud because I'm like you you read that out loud the exact way that I would have been like hearing it in my head.
Mm.
And narrators aren't always the best at that. And so yeah, he does a fantastic job with the humor as well as the sad moments and the happy moments and the screaming moments and all of that. It's just great across the board. He's so good.
Well, that's awesome, Spencer. And you've been great across the board coming on in
Ah.
your first Friends Talking Fantasy podcast experience. So really, really appreciate you coming on and filling in for
Yeah.
Charles. And yeah, we're just pumped to at least I am. I don't want to speak for Charles, but I'm pumped to get into some of those reads that
Yeah.
you mentioned. I'm sure many of our listeners and viewers are feeling that way now too. I think this one will end up being titled something like Hidden Gem Fantasy
Hmm.
Recommendations because I think you went even a step further beyond just like these are underrated. Like you didn't
Hmm.
just pick books that are like, well, like everyone thinks these books are good, but like they're actually amazing. It's like you found these hidden gems that a lot of people
Hmm.
probably haven't even heard of, and
Yeah.
really shine the spotlight on them in a way that had me feeling like your passion is super contagious and feeling excited.
Thanks.
So, um,
Is there one that you want to start from this
I
list?
think the two that stuck out the most to me are the one that you just mentioned. That's King's
Hmm.
Dark Tidings, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of more of a like I've been meaning to read that one.
Yeah.
So that sticks out and is almost like a reminder. And I'll say, like the the
Art of the
first book
Adept.
that you talked about, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Choice of
just
Magic. Yeah.
once you start getting into all the King Killer,
Hmm.
like it reminds me of King Killer in all these ways. And honorable mention for sure. I mean, uh, Holly's book. It
Yeah.
sounds like super interesting and right up the grimdark alley. And
Yeah.
Thomas also is that was another reminder of like oh, I've been meaning to
Yeah.
get to that. So
Yeah.
another couple awesome books that you're holding up over there. So that's We Break Immortals. I just called it Thomas's book.
Hmm.
And remind me, Holly's book
We
is called
We Men
We
of Ash
Men
and
of
Shadow.
Ash and Shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Fans of the First Law, check this out.
yeah. Well, Spencer, I think you've said it all on here. I
This
think you've
might be
done a
your
great
longest
job of
episode
pitching.
yet.
Oh no, no. There's
No?
no
Okay.
no, I don't think so. We have some, I think like we did, what was that one? Like, was our 200th episode. We did, let me see. It was like, uh, we reviewed or what, I don't know if reviewed is the right word for it, but like, recommended 200 books for our
Oh
200th
my
episode or
God.
something wild like that. So I'll see if I can.
It took Charles like 2 hours to get through 25 books, so I can't imagine how long it took to get through 200.
Well, we were really emphasizing like we're gonna do this quick.
Yeah.
Whether we succeeded at that or not, I mean, for what we were doing, I think we did pretty quick. I'm trying to find it in our list of episodes, but it was, geez, got to be further back. But can you like sort by longest episode
Oh
on
yeah, right. I
Spotify?
know.
Yeah, it
Well,
was.
that one that Charles did recently, where he talked about the 25 books that he had read, was such a good episode, and it was so hilarious. Like the dynamic between you guys, it just makes me die laughing every single time. I love it. I love it so much. And you guys are like just kind of getting used to the YouTube format and all that. It's just fun, man. It's just such a good time.
I'm glad it feels that way. You know, our dynamic, it's just been honed over the like
Right.
knowing each other way too long. So
Well,
there's hopefully
well,
some of that comes across.
Well, I think the thing that's nice about it is you guys are so clearly like best friends, and there's probably nothing you could really say to each other to really like mess up that friendship. And so you guys can just get super real with each
Yeah.
other in the episodes. And it's
There's
so funny.
there's things I'll say to Charles that definitely like if we had someone we didn't know as well on the
Yeah,
episode, or even like someone you're friendly with, he'd be like, I
right.
would never, I'd be thinking that, but I wouldn't say it. Like, but Charles, yeah, when he's doing that tier list, for example,
Oh, it's
I was just
so
like, dude, that's
funny.
not like that's not
It-
how a tier list works. Like, I think he was doing it in order of like he started with like the lowest ranked
Yeah,
books. And
yeah,
like I've seen people do these tier lists and they just grab a random book and they're like,
yeah. It has to
"Oh,
be
like
random.
where will I put this?" And he was like, "Oh, I'll do all of the like DNFs first and then all the like
It
D's
it
next
takes
and then
all
the
the
C's."
anticipation
And I
out
was
of it.
like, "Dude, that's not how it works." And I just like I don't know. I think I'd just
Uh,
be sitting there like maybe I'd like sort of hint at like, oh, what do you think of if we're like we did this a
yeah.
little more random? Like,
Hmm.
but with Charles, it's like, dude, that you didn't. This is not how it works. So,
He's
yeah,
trying
it's
so
fun.
hard. He said we're getting a YouTube channel. We got to do tier lists. So you gotta hand it to him that he's doing the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, I mean, respect. I mean, he read a lot more books than I did, so we
Yeah, that
followed
was
his lead there.
impressive. That was impressive.
He's like on fire with his
Hmm.
reading. I don't know what's going on over there, but
Yeah.
he's reading a wild amount of books lately. But
Well,
I'm
tell him to
sure,
read King's Dark Tidings.
yeah, I'll tell him in a kinder way than you told me. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. All right. Well,
All
Spencer,
right.
this has been a ton of fun. But
Yes.
remind folks again where they
Hmm.
can find Fancy Files podcast and both
Yep.
on YouTube and all the like any social media and stuff. And
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube, and if you go to the description of any of our videos, all our links will be there. You can get linked right to our Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And and you'll also get linked to we have a Discord channel where people are over there chatting and stuff. That's always super fun. We also have a Patreon where it's super cheap. It's like $3 a month. And basically you get to watch us record live. So like everything that Dylan and I are doing right now, you'd be able to be here like talking with us as we talk about these books or whatever. And so we just kind of open that up to our patrons to be able to be there weeks before it ever goes over to YouTube. Um, so definitely check that out. It's a great deal, and you don't have to wait for me to edit stuff because I'm really bad at taking a long time to edit things that people are excited for. So it's
you should do my
definitely
strategy since Charles has been on
just put it
his
right
break,
out.
which is not edit at all, and
Just
ask
sing my
guests
theme
to
song
sing the
and
theme song for. To be, I did not ask him to do that. That was he volunteered,
I
but
wanted to
yes.
do that. Yeah. Well, Dylan, I appreciate you having me on. Obviously, I'm such a big fan of you guys. I've been rooting for you guys for so long, and I just appreciate all of the inspiration that you've given us for our own podcast. So I feel like we've come full circle, and I've gotten to be on the podcast that kind of inspired us. So thank you so much.
That means a lot, Spencer. Happy to have you on. And to the viewers and or listeners, I've sworn I won't do Charles's send off. I haven't really developed my own yet. Well, I think in a couple episodes ago, I just went peace. But I'm
Five
gonna just
stars.
yeah.
5 stars to your podcast,
Oh yeah,
right?
toss 5 stars to our podcast. But just listening is more than enough, or watching. So thank you so much for doing that. Peace.
Bye, everybody. Do do do.